Go do the same things that we done.
Check, check, 1, 2. Oh, wow, this does sound nice. This is effortless. This is effortless. Very nice. The quality is excellent. Way better than the last one.
Nothing you do can't stop the flow. Moving this truth can't stop the growth. Running down every single obstacle. Moving through your city, that's how we go. Purple and gold, that's how we roll. Boots laced up, now we out the door. This man's kingdom has got to go. Do the same things that we done before. Nothing you do can't stop the flow. Moving this truth can't stop the growth. Running down every single obstacle. Moving through your city, that's how we go. Purple and gold, that's how we roll. Boots laced up, now we out the door. This man's kingdom has got to go. Do the same things that we done before.
No hesitation, it's automatic. Got 100 scriptures, we gon' let them have it. We gon' bring change, set the example, doing good deeds. No Adam Sandler, we bringing the laws in order for the most. How we gotta enforce them, none of your wicked ways we endorse. And the message is black and white like an orca, yeah. Who gon' stand up against iniquity? Yeah. Fake friends. My enemies, yeah. Eat them, gotta pay for what they did to me. I got a line that's inside of my pedigree. Yeah. You been lying ever since you was allowed to breathe. For centuries, all the heat has been wildin'. We prophesy once again against these mountains. We only need 144,000.
Nothing you do can't stop the flow. Moving this truth can't stop the growth. Nothing you do can't stop the flow. Moving this truth can't stop the growth. Running down every single obstacle. Moving through your city, that's how we go. Purple and gold, that's how we roll. Boots laced up, now we out the door. This man's kingdom has got to go. Do the same things that we done before. Nothing you do can't stop the flow. Moving this truth can't stop the growth. Running down every single obstacle. Moving through your city, that's how we go. Purple and gold, that's how we roll. Boots laced up, now we out the door. This man's kingdom has got to go. Do the same things that we done before.
No hesitation, it's automatic. Got 100 scriptures, we gon' let them have it. We gon' bring change, set the example, doing good deeds. No Adam Sandler, we bringing the laws in order for the most. How we gotta enforce them, none of your wicked ways we endorse. And the message is black and white like an orca, yeah. Who gon' stand up against iniquity? Yeah. Fake friends turn into my enemies. Yeah. Eat them, gotta pay for what they did to me. I got a line that's inside of my pedigree. Yeah. You been lying ever since you was allowed to breathe. For centuries, all the heat has been wildin'. We prophesy once again against these mountains. We only need 144,000.
Nothing you do can't stop the flow. Moving this truth can't stop the growth. Running down every single obstacle. Moving through your city, that's how we go. Purple and gold, that's how we roll. Boots laced up, now we out the door. This man's kingdom has got to go. Do the same things that we done before. Nothing you do can't stop.
Test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Check, check. Hey, Shalom Israel. Most High in Christ bless you all. I'm Officer Elisha from Atlanta Camp, and I'll be holding down Hammer Time. Deacon Labaka slot. All praise to the Most High. It's another Sabbath day. Hey, turn down those speakers for me. It's a little too much feedback for me. But all praises that we made it to another Sabbath to worship the Most High God of Israel on His day. So, Lord's will, we can go through some scriptures, be edified, rejoice in the Lord that has chosen us to be His chosen people. All praise to the Most High. All praise. All praise. So now, today we're going to go over a class dealing with leadership. Leadership. Follow the leader. That's the name of the class. Follow the leader. For some odd reason, it's hard for Israelites to follow the leadership that's set up before them. Coming out of the world, we feel as though that we don't need nobody to lead us. Or we feel as though that we should be leaders ourselves. The Bible talks about how the Lord chooses specific leaders to lead His nation. Understand this. As we are dealing with the world today, everything that we do is a rehearsal. We are rehearsing for something to come. Don't think that this is just the end right here. We are getting prepared for something else. And we're going to dive into it and see exactly what I mean. Let's just start off with it. Let's go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 16. Oftentimes, as Israelites, repentant Israelites, we are so focused on the kingdom. Yes, that's supposed to be our main focus. It's the kingdom. But oftentimes, we neglect the step before the kingdom. And that's the wilderness. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and let's start at verse 16.
The book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16.
Hey, do me one favor, turn up my mic just a tad bit for me. Online, group 1 and 2. Yeah, just a little bit, group 1 and 2. Read that for me, soldier.
Yes, sir. The book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16.
Uh-huh.
For the Lord Himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, and the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first.
Read.
Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord.
So now Paul is explaining steps that we are going to take, right? He talks about how the Israelites are going to get the kingdom and they're going to live with the Lord forever. That is a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Yes, that sounds very good. But Paul is not mentioning that there's a step right before that. There's a step right before that. Yes, those who make it through the wilderness, they are going to fulfill that prophecy right there. They're going to fulfill living with the Lord of hosts forever and ever and ever. But you got to get through the wilderness. So the time that we have right now, the life that we live in as repentant Israelites, is a life of rehearsal. Just don't think that just because you are within these doors that you have a key to the kingdom. Yes, if you do everything that you're supposed to be doing, yes, you can get there. But you got to have the right mindset. Understand that. Understand that. There's a process that you must take. And in this life right here, you must take it seriously. Take it seriously. Read that again for me, that last verse.
Yes, sir. Verse 17. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord.
So that's what we're hoping for right there. That's why we do the things that we do. That's why we sacrifice our life. Because we want to meet the Lord in the air and live with him forever. But remember, there is a process that we must take. All right? There is a process that we must endure. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 20 now. And let's see what I mean. Ezekiel chapter 20, and let's start at verse 35. Because I mentioned that we must go through the wilderness. The life that we're living right now is for us to rehearse for the wilderness. Once we get past that, then yes, we'll get to the kingdom. But we got to get there first. Read that.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, verse 35. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people.
So now this is the Lord speaking to the Israelites. The Lord said that I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. That's the same wilderness that he took our forefathers to, right outside of Egypt. Once we became a nation, the Lord took us into the wilderness and he began to prove us. The same thing going to happen in the future. Understand that. Read on.
And there will I plead with you face to face.
So the Lord said that he's going to plead with us face to face. Now that's not the Lord begging us or pushing us or asking us. That's the Lord saying that he's going to judge us. During that time frame, there's no more do-overs. There's showtime. Right here is practice. This is rehearsal, but in the wilderness, it's showtime. Keep reading.
Verse 36. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you.
So the Lord is saying, listen, the same way I dealt with your forefathers is the same way I'm going to deal with you. If you make the wilderness. He said, I'm going to deal with you the exact same way. So now we got to look within these scriptures and see how did the Lord deal with our forefathers, and let us not make the same mistakes. Keep reading.
So will I plead with you, saith the Lord God, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant.
Read.
And I will purge out from among you the rebels.
And the Lord said that he's going to purge out from among the body rebels. That's in the wilderness. Meaning that there are going to be some Israelites that make it to the wilderness, but not going to make it to the kingdom. So there's something that they're falling short of during this time frame right now. Because we are supposed to be rehearsing to get to the kingdom. Once we get to the wilderness, that's showtime. Right now, it's rehearsal. The wilderness is showtime. Once we get past that, then we get the covenant of Abraham. But we got to get past that wilderness first. And one main thing that our forefathers messed up on was not following our leaders. We was not reverencing our leaders. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. Follow the leader. Follow your leaders that the Lord has set up. Not who man set up, but the Lord set them up. Let's go to Judges 5 and 11 now. Judges chapter 5, verse 11.
The book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord.
It say there. They shall rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord. In the land of America and throughout the world, Israelites are going to be rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord. One of those righteous acts is learning how to follow leaders. Understand this. The leaders that the Most High has set up today, your bishop, your deacons, your captains, your officers. Specifically, let's just deal with the bishop right now, right? The bishops. The Lord has set them up to lead this particular body right here. And we're doing that, why? To rehearse how to follow Christ. These men that are set up, they have the Spirit of Christ in them. So essentially, that's Christ that you're dealing with. They have the Spirit of Christ in them. So we are rehearsing how to follow the leader. Because in the wilderness, guess what? We're going to have to follow Christ. We're going to have to follow that leader. And there are some who would not get this. There are going to be some who would not get the message in this life. Because why? The scripture said in Ezekiel, there's going to be rebels who are going to be purged out. They're going to be rebelling against who? Against Christ. They're going to be rebelling against Christ because they did not rehearse how to follow their leaders in this lifetime right here. Understand this. So now let's go to Romans 15 and 4. Romans chapter 15 verse 4. Follow your leaders. Learn how to follow the men that the Lord has set up among you in the Spirit of Christ. Read that.
The book of Romans chapter 15 verse 4.
Read.
For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
So whatsoever things was written aforetime, it was written for us to learn from. Guess what? The accounts of our forefathers in the wilderness, that was written for our learning. The mistakes that they made, it was written down so we can now read it and see, okay, this is what I need to work on. This is what they did right, and this is what they did wrong. So it will behoove you to do the things that they done right and avoid the things that they done wrong, because the things that they have done wrong back in the past, they was killed for it. We'll read it later on. Understand that this book is just not a novel. We're just not reading it just for a feel good. This is something that we're supposed to learn from. The examples that our forefathers and our foremothers have made, we are supposed to learn from those things and correct our actions. But some of us will not get it. Lord's will, it won't be you. Read that again.
The book of Romans chapter 15 verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
So now, let's go to some accounts, right? Let's go to 1 Corinthians, and let's start at verse 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and let's read verse 1. Let's start there.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea. So
now, Paul is giving us an example of our forefathers and foremothers in the wilderness. It say, I would not have you that ye should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea. So during this time frame, Paul is reminding us of how great our God was. There was a huge chariot that followed us through the wilderness, and he has split the Red Sea for us to go through, and he destroyed our enemies for our sake. So Paul is reminding us of how great our God is. Read on.
And all are baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea.
So now, Paul now reminds us that the Lord gave us a leader. It say that the entire nation of Israel was to follow after Moses. It say all was baptized to Moses in the cloud and in the sea. It didn't say that all the nation of Israel was baptized. No, it said that we was baptized through Moses, meaning that the Lord chose a specific man to lead the nation of Israel. Moses was set up as our leader. That's how the Lord gets down. The Lord did not choose the entire nation to just run amok. The Lord chose the nation under the leadership of Moses. Understand that. And that's something that we have to rehearse today. The Lord has chosen leaders to lead the nation of Israel today. Understand that. The Lord didn't change. That's the same Lord. That's the same God in the book of Exodus. The same God today. Read that again.
Verse 2. And all were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea.
Read.
And did all eat the same spiritual meat. And did all drink the same spiritual drink.
Read on.
For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them. And that rock was Christ.
So now, Paul is now reminding us of of all the great wonders that our God did for our nation of people. It said that he gave us spiritual meat, he gave us spiritual drink, he gave us manna, he gave us water from a rock. But for some odd reason, our people did not follow the leaders that were set before them. After all the mighty things that the Lord has done, our people still murmured against the leadership. Read on.
Verse 5. But with many of them, God was not well pleased.
So with many of them, despite of all the signs and the wonders and the blessing that he gave us, it said that the Lord was not pleased with them. The Lord was not pleased with how they dealt with him. Meaning us, meaning our forefathers and foremothers, how they dealt with the Lord. He was not pleased with them. Read on.
For they were overthrown in the wilderness.
And there was what?
They were overthrown in the wilderness.
Understand this. That's going to happen again. The Lord is going to kill or destroy Israelites in the wilderness who did not correct themselves from what their forefathers and foremothers did. Read this Bible and apply what this Bible has written. He has given us accounts that we are supposed to learn from. But many of us will not learn from this, and many of us are going to die in the wilderness, doing the same or making the same mistakes that our ancestors made. Read on.
Verse 6. Now these were our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things.
Read that again.
Now these were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things.
So now, it said these were our examples. What we're reading about our forefathers in the wilderness are our examples, that we won't fall into the same lust that our forefathers and mothers fell into. So let's get to a particular lust. Go over to verse 10, same chapter, verse 10.
Verse 10. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured.
Oh, no. So now the Lord tells us, or Paul is telling us through the Spirit of Christ, he's saying for us not to murmur as our forefathers have murmured. Who do they murmur against? They murmured against their leadership, which was Moses. We are to learn not to murmur against our leaders. Read on.
And were destroyed of the destroyer.
So now, as a result, the Lord killed those that murmur against the leaders that he set up. So again, we must rehearse the righteous acts right now to not murmur against the leaders that are set up. Follow your leaders. Follow them. Read on.
Verse 11. Now all these things happen unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition. Upon whom the ends of the world are to come.
So now, understand this. The accounts that were made back in those times in the wilderness, that was specifically made for us. The things that our forefathers and our foremothers went through in the wilderness were set as examples for us. That is very, very heavy. The Lord knew exactly what he was doing from the beginning. Hold that. Go to Isaiah 46 and 10 for me. The Lord allowed certain things to play out in the wilderness of Egypt during those times for us. Because it said, upon whom the ends of the world are to come. That's speaking about us. We are in the end times. He's saying that he set all this up for us. So it will behoove us to pay attention to what the Lord has written for us here, what he allowed to go on so we can learn from those examples. Read that.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 46, verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning.
So the Lord has already set everything up. He declared the end from the beginning. The Lord knew exactly what he was doing during the time of Exodus. It was for our sakes today. But for some odd reason, we're not going to do it. Many of us are not going to do it. He set all this stuff up for us today. That's why the bishops, the leadership say, these are the greatest times that we're living in today. Everything that we read about the prophets, right? All the books of the Bible, it talks about the very time that we're in today. And there's one example right there. The Lord said, I allowed your forefathers to do the things that they did in the wilderness for your sake. Because guess what? This is the last hurrah, right? Christ is going to return very soon. There's not going to be another umpire after this. Esau is the last standing umpire, and then Jacob is next. Israel is next. So this right here is your last chance of getting it right. So don't take it for granted. Go to Matthew chapter 7. No, hold up. We finished on that? No, sir. Keep reading.
All right, the book of Isaiah 46, verse 10. Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand.
It says the Lord counsel shall stand. Whatever he say, whatever he deemed to happen, it's going to happen. So it'll be your best bet to just to follow what the Bible say. We've seen slavery. Slavery was prophesied within these scriptures. It happened. We've seen it happen. We have history books on it, right? You can just Google it. So why don't you think that the Lord said that you're going to re-enter into the wilderness and some will rebel? Why won't you listen to that? Meaning, guess what? I don't want to be on that side. So I'm going to do what the Lord say for me to do and learn from my forefathers' mistakes. That's what you need to do. Go to 1 Corinthians again. Go back there, chapter 10, verse 12.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 12.
Read.
Wherefore, let him that thinketh that, verse 12. Wherefore, let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. There hath no temptation taken.
Oh, no. Read verse 12 again for me.
Yes, sir. Verse 12. Wherefore, let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall.
So now, Paul is letting us know, listen. Those who think that they have it all together, rethink yourself. Many of us think that I keep the law, I come to the Sabbath, I go to New Moon, I dance, I party, I'm good. But Paul is saying, listen, examine that again. You're supposed to be examining yourselves on a daily basis. He said, for those who think they stand, you better examine yourself lest ye fall. So you need to be looking at these scriptures just to reassure, am I doing everything possible that I won't make the same mistakes that my forefathers made in the wilderness? Go to Matthew chapter 7, because Christ said the same thing. He said the exact same thing. Matthew chapter 7, verse 21.
The book of Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven.
So the Lord is saying, listen, there's going to be some who think that they stand, who think that they are righteous, who think that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not going to make it. Read on.
But he that doeth the will of my Father, which is in heaven.
So now the Lord is saying, hold on, read it from the top again for me.
Verse 21. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven.
So just because you say, Lord, Lord, just because you say that you are an Israelite, just because you say that you worship the Most High God of Israel, just because you wearing fringes, just because you keep the Sabbath day, that doesn't guarantee you life in the kingdom. But read on.
But he that doeth the will of my Father, which is in heaven.
So those who actually keep the will of the Father, they are going to get the kingdom. So Christ is letting us know that there'll be some today who are thinking that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they are deceiving themselves. That's why Paul said, if you think that you standeth, rethink it. Take heed lest ye fall. Keep reading. Verse 22.
Yes, sir. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name?
So now there'll be some who will say, listen, we have prophesied in your name. We went out within the streets. We was at camp. We was at the 2-man camp. We was holding down class. Read on.
And in thy name have cast out devils.
And we actually went there and we actually converted brothers and sisters. We brought them to the truth. Read on.
And in thy name done many wonderful works.
And we have done many works. We have done many great things within the streets, communities. We have helped build up these schools. So they thinking that just off of that alone, that they have been granted the key to the kingdom. Read on.
And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you.
So the Lord, despite the works that you're thinking that you're doing, if your mind ain't right, if your spirit is not right, if you're not examined yourself on a daily basis, guess what? Christ don't know you. Like Deacon Asaph said, he is using you. He is a user. That's what the Lord is. But it's up to us to make sure that we are doing all that we can to make sure that our spirit's right. Not just the outward, not just us sitting within these seats within the body, not just appearing as if we're teaching many, but we're actually getting ourselves right. We are actually examining ourselves and looking at the inner man and making sure that we're doing all that we can. And in one degree, making sure that we are actually following the leaders that set up, that we're not murmuring against them, that we are actually accepting the order that the Lord has set forth. That's a part of repentance. Understand that. It's not just fringes. It's not just you on following the dietary law. Oh, well, I don't eat shrimp, lobster, and pork. I'm good. No, there's more to it than that. That's just the outward show. What are you doing about the inward man? What are you doing about the spiritual man? So now, let's go to Exodus chapter 18. Now, let's get to the foundation. Let's get to the beginning of the leadership of Israel. Understand, leadership, order was ordained by God. Go to Exodus chapter 18 and let's start at verse 13.
The book of Exodus chapter 18, verse 13. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning unto even?
So now Moses, during this time frame, this was Moses, he was dealing with the entire nation of Israel by himself. He was leading the people, he was governing over the people by himself. His father-in-law is looking at him. He said, bro, what are you doing? Because Moses was sitting and counseling people from the morning all the way to the evening. Moses' father-in-law said, listen, what you doing, that's not good, bro. You can't sit here and judge the people by yourself, the entire nation by yourself. So now his father-in-law is about to give him some counsel. Read on.
Verse 15. And Moses said unto his father-in-law, Because the people come unto me to inquire of God.
So now the people realized that Moses was the mediator between them and God. They realized, listen, we got to come to you for counsel, for judgment. Read on.
When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one another. And I do make them know the statutes of God and his laws. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, The thing that thou doest is not good.
So now, his father-in-law was saying the things that you're doing right now is not good. Even though Moses had good intention, he's saying this is not good. Read on.
Verse 18. Thou wilt surely wear away.
You see that? He said you're going to wither away. Even though you have good intention, what you're doing, you are spreading yourself thin. You're going to wither away. Read on.
Both thou and this people that is with thee.
So now it said you will wither away and the people. Why? Because he is stretching himself so much, he will burn himself out. So now the people will be without a counselor because Moses is burnt out if he continues like this. Read on.
For this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone. Hearken now unto my voice.
So now he's saying, listen to what I'm saying, because his father-in-law, he was a leader in Midian. So he had some experience. He said, listen to what I'm about to tell you, Moses. Read on.
I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to God.
Read.
Oh, actually, be thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring the causes unto God.
Read.
And thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt shew them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do.
So now he's telling them, listen, teach the people God's laws. Give them the foundation so there are some matters that they can handle on their own. Read on.
Verse 21. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens.
So now, Moses' father-in-law is now giving him some counsel. He said, if you continue like this, Moses, you're going to burn out. So he's telling him, listen, set up men that can help you govern the people. And not only that, he says set up in order. He said give them captains of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, rulers of tens. And that's the same thing that we do today. We have set up the order based upon the laws of Moses. That's why you have officers of 10, 20, 50, 80, 90, captains of 100, 200, 300, 400, so forth and so on, deacons and bishops. We have there was an order set up throughout the nation of Israel. Moses did it, and therefore our leadership is doing the exact same thing. Why? Because it takes more than one man to lead the entire people. The bishops can't handle every single matter in the nation of Israel. That's why they have set up order to help them govern the people. Read on.
Verse 22. And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So it shall be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee.
So now the purpose of leadership, the purpose of an order, is to help govern the nation of Israel. And it's not just going to take one man, because one man can't do it by himself. It's going to take a group of men in a certain order to help guide the people. Understand that. So now that you see that there's a leadership set up, there's an order set up, and we follow in that same blueprint, you as the nation of Israel must follow the order that the Lord has set up. No, realize this. It is not man who set up this order. It is God who set up the order. It's just our bishops looked into these scriptures and followed what God has set forth with Moses. It's the same God that we serve, so he wants the same exact thing. Realize that. Go to Numbers chapter 11 now. Numbers chapter 11, let's start at verse 16. This is the necessity of leadership. It's not something that was just made up, or there was just a group of men that just want to rule over people. No, it was to help guide and govern the people into a certain way. And the leaders needed help. So they had built a structure to help guide the people that are scattered throughout the world. Read that.
The book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 16. And the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people.
Read.
And officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation.
Read on.
That they may stand there with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and will put it upon them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear it not thyself alone. And say thou unto the people, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, and ye shall eat flesh. For
hold on. Jump over now to verse, hold on, where does it say? Read verse 17 again for me.
Verse 17, and I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and will put it upon them.
That's the point I want right there. Understand that the leaders that are set up have the same spirit that the bishops have. Understand that. Understand that. It is one spirit that the leaders are dealing with. Just like the Most High did with Moses, he took off the spirit of Moses and distributed that spirit to the 70 elders. So they was all rolling in one spirit. And that's what you see today. You see everybody following in one spirit. But here's the kicker right here. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And I want to start at verse 4. So it's not like it's different mindsets or different agendas. It's everybody, a righteous leadership, a righteous order. They are following after that same spirit, which is the spirit of Christ. Because the Lord gave Moses the spirit, and then he distributed that spirit that was placed on Moses and distributed to his 70 elders, meaning that they was all rolling in the same spirit. Read that.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit.
So now, the Lord is saying, listen, all the leaders don't have the same gifts, but they're rolling in that same spirit. They are all rolling in the same spirit of Christ with the same mindset. There may be some that will have certain gifts that differs from others, but realize that they are all following after the spirit of Christ under the leadership of our leader, which are the bishops. Read that again for me.
Yes, sir. Verse 4. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit.
Read.
And there are differences of administrations,
Read.
but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God, which worketh all in all. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal.
So every gift that the Lord gives our leaders, they are diverse. And they're different, but it's for our benefit. Everybody can't have the same gifts. Everybody the leaders must have different gifts to address different situations or different issues. Read on.
Verse 8, for to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom.
So some leaders, they're given the gift of wisdom, of counsel, to guide the people. Read on.
To another, the word of knowledge.
And some understand the Bible. They have the knowledge of the law. They realize or they know how the law is to be applied. They study. Read.
The word of knowledge by the same Spirit.
And that's the same exact Spirit. It's the same Spirit of Christ that are giving our leaders different abilities and different gifts. Read on.
To another, faith by the same Spirit.
Read.
To another, to another, the gifts of healing by the same Spirit.
Read on.
To another, the working of miracles. To another, prophecy. To another, discerning of spirits. To another, diverse kinds of tongues. To another, the interpretation of tongues. But all these worketh that one and selfsame Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will.
So now the Lord understands how he is dividing up the different gifts. So you may look at one leader for one thing because he possesses one gift. The body looks to another leader for something else. Why? Because he possesses another gift. All of our leaders, they have the Spirit of Christ on them, but they have a variety of gifts. And that's to help the people with a variety of issues. Go to Romans chapter 12 now. Romans chapter 12. This is the necessity of our leaders. If we don't have leaders, we don't have order. Follow your leaders. Read that. Romans chapter 12 and verse 3.
Yes, sir. The book of Romans chapter 12, verse 3. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think,
Mm-hmm.
but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith.
So the Lord has given every man a level of faith. He has given man certain gifts that they should operate in. Read on.
For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we, being many, are one body in Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and every one members one of another,
Read.
having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us. Rather prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith.
So some have the gifts of prophecy. Read on.
Or ministry, let us wait on our ministry.
And some have the gift of services, of ministering for the body, or facilitating certain offices within the body. That takes gifts. The Lord has to put that spirit on the leaders to manifest or to facilitate certain offices. You have finances, you have IT, right? You have security, you have the children, right? Those takes gifts, and it takes leaders to basically have those gifts to make sure that the offices flourish. That takes gifts. Those are leaders. And when the Lord has set up those leaders, it is up to the body to follow those leaders. Read on.
Or he that teacheth on teaching,
Uh-huh.
or he that exhorteth on exhortation.
Read.
He that giveth, let him do it with
Uh-huh.
simplicity.
Read.
He that ruleth with diligence.
And he that ruleth with diligence. It takes a gift. It takes the Spirit of Christ to rule the people well. Read on.
He that sheweth mercy with cheerfulness.
So now, let's go now to Sirach chapter 44. Sirach chapter 44. So now, I'm just building up to show you the benefits of a leader, of a leadership. Why did the Lord set forth a leadership? And this should help us to realize the disadvantage in murmuring against this leadership, because it's for our benefit. Read that.
The book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 44, verse 4.
Uh-huh.
Leaders of the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of learning meet for the people, wise and eloquent in their instructions,
Uh-huh.
such as found out musical tunes and recited verses in writings. Rich men furnished with ability, living peaceably in their habitations.
Read verse 1 again for me.
Verse 1. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us.
Uh-huh.
The Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning.
So it said that the Lord has wrought great glory by them. So now he's about to explain some of those that the Lord used to bring forth his glory. Jump down to verse 4.
Verse 4. Leaders of the people by their counsels.
Leaders of the people by their counsel. The Lord shows his glory through the leaders that he has set up through their counsels. Read on.
And by their knowledge of learning meet for the people, wise and eloquent in their instructions.
And the Lord shows his glory by using the leaders that he set up to instruct the people. Understand that. The leaders that are set up by God. And you must revere these men as the Lord's leaders. And as we'll read on, we will show certain instances of our people going to the leaders and respecting those leaders. Even kings were set up. They went to certain leaders. Now, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 10. I got to speed up a little bit. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 10.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 10.
Yeah.
Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured.
So now remember the idea of today's class. Not to murmur against your leadership, to follow your leaders. Those who the Most High has set up, he set up for a reason, so we can rehearse how to follow Christ. Read verse 10 again.
Verse 10. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed of the destroyer.
So now, The Lord is saying, listen, remember your forefathers when they murmured against the leaders and what I done to them. He said, I'm going to do the very same thing to those in the wilderness to come. Go to Exodus 22 now. Exodus 22 and verse 28.
The book of Exodus, chapter 22, verse 28. Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people.
So this is a law. The Lord set up this very law. He said, do not revile. It said, do not revile the gods, nor curse the rulers of thy people. Meaning, do not speak against the leadership. That's what the Lord said. He said, do not speak against those men who I have set up. Don't do it. That is the law of God. So when you do that, you are in the midst of sin. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17 now. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17.
The book of 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17.
Yep.
Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor.
So now the Lord said, listen, those men who rule well, you are supposed to revere them with double honors. Double honors. It says, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. So the Lord is separating the leaders from the rest of the nation. The Lord is saying, those men that are chosen to lead, revere them. Respect them. Give them double honors. Go to Exodus now. Chapter 16, verse 4. Here's a reason why. He said, revere those men who I have set up. Exodus chapter 16 and verse 4.
The book of Exodus chapter 16, verse 4. Then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no.
So this is speaking about the wilderness once again. And now the Lord is saying, listen, the Lord is going to rain down manna because the people were complaining to Moses, right? So the Lord said, I'm going to send down manna for them. Read on.
Verse 5. And it shall come to pass that on the sixth day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, at even then ye shall know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt.
Read on. Here's the point.
And in the morning then ye shall see the glory of the Lord, for that he heareth your murmurings against the Lord. And what are we that ye murmur against us?
Read.
And Moses said, this shall be when the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for that the Lord heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we?
So now Moses is saying, what are we? Meaning, who are we? Even though that they were the leaders of the people, Moses saying, listen, I am nothing but a vessel. Who am I? Read on.
Your murmurings are not against us, but against the Lord.
We understand this. When you speak against the leaders that the Lord set up, you're not murmuring against man. You're murmuring against the Lord, because the Lord has his spirit upon those leaders, and he has given them, or he guides them to set up certain councils or certain, he basically have the body go a certain way, or to guide the body according to the counsels of the Lord. So it's not them that's doing it. It's the Lord that's directed them to move the people a certain direction. So when you murmur against the leaders, you are essentially murmuring against the Lord who is directing those leaders. Understand that. Go to 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 10. So you may think that you're murmuring against the bishop or the deacons or the captains, but you're not actually murmuring against them, because they are vessels that the Lord is using. Understand that. So watch your mouth when you're dealing with your leaders. Read that. 1 Peter 1 and 10.
The book of 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 10. of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently, who prophesied of the grace that should come unto you, searching what manner of time the Spirit of Christ which was in them.
Which was what?
Which was in them.
Understand that the Spirit of Christ are in the leaders. Those who keep the commandments with faith in Christ. Those who the Lord set up. Go to Psalm 78, verse 5. Those who the Lord set up have the Spirit of Christ in them. So when you murmur against those leaders, when you speak against those leaders, when you disrespect those leaders, you're disrespecting Christ. And if you don't fix that right now, you're going to do the same thing in the wilderness and you're going to die. And there's no return from that. There's no makeup. There's no day of atonement then. You're just finished. So make sure that you are rehearsing the righteous acts now. Shed that old man. Read that for me.
The book of Psalms, chapter 78, verse 5.
I think that's what I want.
Yes, sir. For he established a testimony in Jacob.
No. I'm sorry. Okay. That's not it. I want 75 and verse 6. I'm sorry. 75 verse 6.
Yes, sir. The book of Psalms, chapter 75, verse 6. For promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but God is the judge.
It said, but God is the judge. So it's not man that set up these leaders. It's God who sets up these leaders. Yes, man are the one who are actually selecting them, but it's the Lord who is moving their spirit. Go to Proverbs 16:9. Just because you see the leaders who are setting up other leaders, it's not necessarily them that's doing it. It's the Spirit of Christ that is in them who is directing them to set up certain leaders, to put them in certain areas, to set them up in certain camps. So when you speak against them, you're speaking against Christ. Read that.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9. A man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps.
So it's men who are setting up certain leaders, who are guiding the people, right? Setting up various initiatives within the body. But it's the Lord who is directing their steps. Understand that. The Lord knows exactly what he's doing with the people that he's setting up. So respect these men. Now go to 2 Ezra chapter 1 and verse 38. 2 Ezra chapter 1 verse 38.
The book of 2 Ezra chapter 1 verse 38. And now, brother, behold what glory, and see the people that cometh from the east, unto whom I will give for leaders.
So the Lord is saying he's going to give certain men for leaders. There are certain men today who are set up as leaders who were the prophets of the Lord in these times right here. Yes, we are still living in biblical times, but when these books was written, those men are here today. Let's prove that. Read on.
Unto whom I will give for leaders. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Read.
Hosea, Amos, Micah, Joel, Obadiah, Abdias, and Jonah, Nahum, and Habakkuk. Is it okay if I say Zephaniah?
Yep.
Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, which is called and also an angel of the Lord.
So these prophets that the Lord has chose back in those times to lead the people, guess what? Those same spirits are here today. Some of your leaders that you see within your various camps, some of your bishops, some of your deacons, some of your captains are these men right here. They are these very spirits right here. The Lord said, I'm going to send them back to lead the people. And we'll sit there and read about Zephaniah and Daniel and Isaiah and be like, wow, these are some great people right here. And then we'll disrespect the leaders. Those are the same spirits right there. Those are the same prophets. They have just been regenerated. Read that again for me.
Verse 39. unto whom I will give for leaders Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Hosea, Amos, Micah, Joel, Obadiah, and Jonah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, which is called also an angel of the Lord.
So understand that the leaders that I set up are the same leaders that the Lord's been dealing with from the beginning of time. They have been regenerating. He said that I'm going to send them for leaders to lead the people. So yes, the Lord ordained certain men. And we see that these men was righteous back then. We got to believe that these are the same men today that's guiding us in the right direction. Go to Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee.
Now, this is the Lord speaking specifically to Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a leader of the people. Read that again.
Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee.
So the Lord is saying, listen, before I formed you, Jeremiah, I knew you before time. Read on.
And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee.
He sanctified them, meaning what? He sanctified him from the people. He said, I'm going to set you up to be a leader of the people. He separated him. Read on.
And I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations.
He said, I ordained you, Jeremiah, a prophet. He said, I already knew you from before time. And guess what? Jeremiah is going to return again if he's not already here. Go to 2 Ezra chapter 2, verse 18. He said, I knew thee before you was even in the womb. You was already ordained to be a leader within my nation. Read that.
The book of 2 Ezra chapter 2, verse 18. For thy help will I send my servants, Isai,
Which is
Isaiah, and Jeremy,
and Jeremy, which is Jeremiah. The Lord is saying, listen, I'm going to send Isaiah back. I'm going to send Jeremiah back, along with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Daniel, Jonah, Amos. He said, I'm going to bring back all these prophets as leaders. So the Lord is not just setting up just mean men or just average men. He's setting up leaders. The same leaders that guided the people back then are the same leaders that's leading the people today. Understand that. So watch your mouth when you're dealing with your leaders. Go to Revelation 10, verse 10. I want to get some more. Revelation 10, verse 10.
The book of Revelation, chapter 10, verse 10. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples.
Wait a minute. So the Lord is saying that John the Revelator, you got to prophesy again. You got to lead the people again. Read on.
Before many people and nations and tongues and kings.
So now this is just another example of the Lord saying, listen, I'm going to send my leaders back once again. I'm going to send back the men that you're reading about. I'm going to send them once again. Now, of course, like the scriptures say, they don't know who they are. They know themselves as whoever, right? As Judah, Captain Judah, Officer, whatever the case may be. But the Lord said, no, that's Jeremiah right there. That's Isaiah right there. That's Zephaniah right there once again. And it's your duty to respect these men as such. Go to Malachi 4 and 5. Let's get one more.
The book of Malachi, chapter 4, verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
So the Lord promises, he said he's going to send Elijah before that great and dreadful day. Now, in the New Testament, it tells us that John the Baptist was Elijah. He was set up again as a leader. So Elijah was a leader, And he came back as a leader once again. And guess what? He came again as a leader to the people. Understand that. So these are just some mojos that you're dealing with. You're dealing with the leaders of the people, the greatest men to ever walk this planet. That's who you're dealing with. All over again. So you need to follow these leaders. Watch your mouth. Go to Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 17.
Read on.
Obey them that have the rule over you.
The Lord tells us to obey those leaders that have rule over us. Rule over us. Obey your leaders. Read on.
And submit yourselves, for they watch over your souls.
So they have a certain duty. As leaders, the duty of a leader is to watch over the sheep. So understand that they're just not doing this. A true leader, a righteous leader, is not doing this for their own gain. The higher you go up in ranks, the more that is expected of you. The more responsibility that you have. They have to watch over the entire flock. That's their job, is to watch over them, watch over the sheep. And it's the sheep duty to follow the leader. As a sheep looks towards the shepherd, that's the same way that you're supposed to look towards the leadership that's set up. And do not look at these men as just average men. They are walking in the spirit of Christ. I have to keep saying it over and over again. These men are operating as Christ. And when Christ hit the scene again, he's going to expect you to be rehearsing this. So when he set forth the true doctrine, once he sets forth the order, you're supposed to already be set. Okay, I'm following the leader. Why? Because I've been doing it for so often. My mind is set to follow the leader. So once the true leader come, the true shepherd come, it's easy for me to do. But those who murmur in this life, they're not going to get it and they're going to be killed off. That's what a rebel is. Hey, do me a favor, officer. Look up the word rebel for me. Look up the word rebel. People thinking that the leaders are trying to get off like a fat cat or something. Man, nobody, man, these possessions, this money gonna burn, man. Nobody care about that stuff, man. We're trying to get to our kingdom. Read that for me. Go to the Miriam. No, it's good right here. That's good. Can you see that, soldier?
Yes, sir.
Read that for me.
You want the first one?
The first one.
Okay, rebel, noun, a person who rises in opposition or armed resistance against an established government or ruler.
A rebel, the Lord said in Ezekiel chapter 20 that he's going to purge out the rebels. He's saying that there's going to be some who are going to go into the wilderness and they're going to have the spirit on them to go against the established government. Understand, in the kingdom of Israel, there shall be an established government. Heading it off is Christ. Underneath them are the 12 apostles. Underneath them is the 144. He said, those who would not understand or get down with this established government, you shall be killed off. So you better get it right now. You better practice right now. The established government that you see right here is a replica of what's to come. Understand that. We're not playing games here. We are trying to rehearse the righteous acts so we can get to the kingdom. That's what a rebel is. So don't be that rebel. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And I got to wrap it up. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and let's start at verse 12.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face.
So now, it say right now we see certain things darkly. Guess what? We don't have the 100% truth. Nobody does. Understand that. And Christ know that. He set it up that way. He said, listen, I'm not going to give you the true doctrine. Why? Because in the wilderness, I'm going to show you the true doctrine. I'm going to be the one to lead you. So guess what? With certain information that we get, certain doctrines that we get, because we have many people who came against or left the truth. Yes, left the truth because they feel as though, oh, your doctrine is different. I don't see it that way. Yada, yada, yada. Are your leaders guiding you into sin? Are they leading you into sin? They're giving you precepts to break down the doctrine. And we as people, we as the sheep are to follow what the leadership say. Understand that we don't have the 100% truth. Paul said it himself. Paul was a Hebrew of the Hebrews. He said, guess what? I don't even have the true doctrine. I see through the glass darkly. The glass is talking about the Bible. He say, I see certain things darkly. But read that again.
Yes, sir. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face.
But then in the wilderness, he's going to teach us face to face. Meaning that he's going to give us the doctrine, thus saith the Lord. Read on.
Now I know in part.
So Paul is saying, I only know it in part. But guess what? He was still leading the people. He said, I only know in part. So the part that I do know, I'm going to lead the people towards Christ. Read.
But then shall I know even as also I am known.
But in the wilderness, he said, guess what? When Christ give us the doctrine, we're going to know everything from beginning unto end. There won't be any prophets or any mysteries. We're going to know it in its fullness. So those who say, oh, I'm just going to leave because of certain doctrines, that's foolishness. Because nobody have the 100% truth. So the leaders that are set up, they're going to go precept upon precept based upon what they know. And that is practice to follow the doctrine. Because guess what? When Christ gives us the doctrine, we only have two options. We're either going to follow what he say or we're going to get killed. It's the same thing here. We got to practice that. Follow what the leadership say or you can move on. Understand that. But realize that the leaders that are set up before you, they are in the spirit of Christ. Christ only gave us a certain amount of knowledge because he said, no, I'm the true shepherd. I'm the true leader. I'm going to give you everything. Because Paul said it. He said, guess what? I got to give what Christ said to Paul, I got to give you a thorn in the flesh. Because if I gave you everything, there's no need for me. That's why he said, I'm only going to give you things in partially. So I can give you the true doctrine in the wilderness. So just follow the leaders. The point I'm trying to make here is follow the leaders. If they're not leading you into sin, chill out. Realize that we are rehearsing the righteous acts. We are only rehearsing the righteous acts. And we're going to respect these men as Christ. Why? Because the Spirit of Christ is in them. Understand that. Go to Luke now, chapter 19. Hold on. Did I? Yeah, Luke chapter 19, verse 27.
The book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 27. But those mine enemies, which would not that I reign over them, bring hither.
So now, this is Christ. This is the complete opposite of what your grandmama and your granddaddy think Christ is like. He is not some white man, some soft-spoken man, or some dark-skinned man with a perm, right? Christ, like they said, Christ's image, his doctrine was crucified here. We don't understand truly who our Lord and Savior is as a people. Yes, we know, but our people outside these doors, they don't understand. They see Christ as some mamby-pamby pushover who's just going to allow you to keep breaking his laws and to disrespect him. And we're just going to be under grace. That's not the God that we serve. Read that again.
Yes, sir. Verse 27. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither.
So the Lord is saying he has enemies. And those enemies are those who would not allow him or would not respect him for him to rule over them. Meaning that they're going to be rebels. They're going to go against the established order, the established government. They're going to be rebelling against his doctrine. Guess what? When just like in the time of Exodus, when he showed the Israelites signs and wonders. He's going to do the very same thing here. He's going to show us signs and wonders. We're going to leave out of America in chariots, what Esau called UFOs. If that's not wondrous, I don't know what is. He's going to show us various things, and in the wilderness, we're still going to disrespect him. The same way that we did in the wilderness back then, we're going to do the very same thing in the future to come. But the Lord said those are his enemies. Read that again for me.
Yes, sir. Verse 27. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither.
He said, bring them to me. Read.
And slay them.
And do what?
And slay them.
That's the God that you serve. That's what's going to happen to those rebels. He said, if you are not going to allow me to rule over you, if you are not going to bow down and submit to bend the knee, he said, I'm going to destroy you. No, he said, I'm going to have others destroy you before me. That's how the Lord gets down. And if you don't get it during this lifetime right here, and you go to the wilderness with that same mindset, thinking that you are the same as leadership or you got a better idea than leadership, you will be slave before Christ. Understand that. You better rehearse these righteous acts. You better keep your murmuring to yourself and pray that the Lord remove that spirit from you. Because if not, you're going to die in the wilderness. Believe that. And you're going to be the example for those who make the kingdom to remember upon, like we're doing now with our forefathers in the wilderness of Egypt. You're going to be that one. Hold that. Go to Isaiah 66 real fast. And then I got to close it out. What's that? Where he say that they're going to come year by year. Hold on. Let me get it real fast. Oh, yeah. Is that it? 66:24? Yes, sir. Read that for me.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 66, verse 24. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me.
So understand this. Those who make the kingdom, those who are now living in the kingdom of heaven, eternal life, there's going to be a memorial of you, those rebels. They're going to come by year and remember, look what happened to those who rebelled against the established government, who rebelled against Christ. That's going to be you if you don't get it right here, right now. That's going to be you. So let not that be you. Get it right here. Like Paul said, if you think that you standeth, take heed lest you fall. Take these lessons, take these accounts that we are reading about and do better. Do better. These things were written for our learning, for us to learn from, to be corrected thereby. This is not just church that we're playing here. This is not Sunday school. This is us trying to get prepared for the next life to come. Understand that. So I'm going to end it right there. Lord's will, I pray that we all have learned something from us being guided by our leadership. I have more, but a time escapes us. So Lord's will, we learn from it. We learn from it. Understand this. Follow your leaders. Respect your leaders. Reverence the men that the Lord has set up before you. Why? Because it's your benefit. It's your benefit for now and for later. And with that, we say shalom. Most High in Christ bless you all.